The museum holds talks on the fourth Friday of each month between February and November, and the videos are published on YouTube. It's free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the bell to be notified of future talks and videos. Thanks a lot for watching.
It is wonderful to see you, and this crowd acknowledges a special place the Queenscliff Hotel holds for both we locals and the much wider community. So your presence speaks volumes about how deeply this iconic building resonates and about the curiosity and enthusiasm for the next chapter. Today we'll hear about the future vision for the Queenscliff Hotel, alongside glimpses into the rich and fascinating past. We'll learn about the recent refurbishments, the challenges, surprises and triumphs, and the people behind them. As is often the case with life's biggest decisions, the story begins with a touch of the unexpected. In Rob Charter's words, the decision to purchase the Queenscliff Hotel was nothing short of serendipitous. Having recently sold their avocado farm in the Byron Bay hinterland with 3 grown independent children and both their elderly mothers living in the Geelong region, it made sense for Rob and Tamson to look at this area for the next chapter of their lives. Their interest in the Queenscliff Hotel was piqued when it came on the market. While initially daunted by the complexities of purchasing a heritage-listed property, they were encouraged to learn that all the necessary compliance submissions to Council and Heritage Victoria had already been approved and were part of the sale. That reassurance helped them take the leap, though little did they know. I was going to tell you a bit more about Rob and Tamson, but they assure me that they are very happy to tell you more about themselves in their presentation. So, and following their presentation, there will be a chance for a few questions. So, without further ado, a big warm welcome to Rob and Tamson Charter.
Good morning. Thank you so much for the introductions from Philip and Mary Lou. We feel honoured. We are just mere custodians of this hotel, and clearly it's impacted a lot of lives. And I guess it impacted us too, so I'll start. Thank you for inviting us to share with you our journey in the restoration process of the Queenscliff Hotel. We're delighted that you're interested and hope that you will be inspired enough after our talk to come and visit us when the hotel is open, whenever that will happen. We'll firstly tell you a little bit about ourselves and the hotel's history, and then we'll share with you our journey through the purchase and renovation and some of the hurdles that we've had to go through. We'll then give you all a sneak peek at our progress with the hotel renovation. We've had some exciting developments just recently, so there's some nice photos. Although the building is still far from being finished, it is finally in the stage of being brought back to its former glory. We are really honoured to be the current custodians of this beautiful building. We would definitely not have been able to tackle it if it hadn't been for our past experiences and risk-taking, I guess, and Rob's success with Caterpillar, because that's what's paying for the building. No other. A bit about us. I was a teacher. I met Rob at Mount Macedon Hotel because I grew up in Macedon. Rob grew up in, firstly, Adelaide, then Scotland, and then Geelong. And then they moved to the Macedon Ranges, and we worked together at the Mount Pub, and which is where we sort of piqued our interest in hospitality and looking after people and, I don't know, the whole hospitality experience. And then Rob, who studied engineering at Ballarat University, he got a job with Caterpillar, and then we started moving. We moved a lot. We started in Mount Macedon, then we moved to Mackay, then we moved to Burnie, Tasmania, and then we relocated to Perth and moved to Sydney. Then we moved from there to Japan. We learned what hospitality is all about. And then we moved to Miami in Florida. Then we got moved to Singapore. Rob kept getting promoted and we got moved to Peoria in Illinois. And I don't know if you know Peoria, Illinois, but it's about the size of Ballarat and it is all about Caterpillar. After Peoria, we moved back to Australia. Our youngest daughter had graduated year 12 and we thought it was time to move back to Australia. So Rob took early retirement. We moved to the Gold Coast and where we had a holiday house, and we decided we needed to do more. We couldn't just be on a boat. So we took on the opportunity of taking on an avocado orchard. We had to learn as much as we could about growing avocados, but the lessons, our takeaways from the avocado orchard are many. We learned that prices vary a lot. What we get paid as farmers is a tiny fraction of what actually goes into the hands of the Coles and Woolworths. And we sold our farm shortly after COVID. The difficulty of going back and forward, and our parents and everything was getting too much. And also to capitalise on the popularity of the Northern Rivers region. We were in the Byron hinterland, we had a view of the sea, so we made a nice profit, so that also helped fund the hotel. And so then we decided it was time to move down closer to Victoria, as Mary Lou said, to come and look after our ageing parents or be close by, because Queensland's a long way, and New South Wales. That's when we came across the advertisement for the Queenscliff Hotel. We saw that it was a beautiful, iconic building in a beautiful seaside town that seems to have been forgotten about. I cannot believe it. An hour and a half from Melbourne, and look at it. It's so beautiful. Every time I go for a walk around Queenscliff, I'm going, I can't understand this. It's really pretty. We discovered from the Geelong Advertiser, just by chance, that all the heritage and building approvals were in place when this was being sold, and that wasn't even in the real estate brochure. We didn't know anything about that, so that made us really excited. And we were looking for a new challenge, as I said, and because of our experience of working in a country hotel, we liked that there was not only a lovely building but a commercial building, and we wanted to take that on. We're by no means experts in this, the history of the hotel. The Queenscliff Hotel has a rich history, initially built in 1887 for Martha Nugent and Joseph Goslin, designed by esteemed architects Reed, Henderson and Smart, who also designed the Melbourne Trade Hall. According to history books, it became a prominent feature of Queenscliff. It was advertised as a family hotel. From the tower, it had a view of the baths, the pier and Portsea. It still has that view, it's just a little bit obscured by all the trees in the Princess Park. And today it's now a heritage-listed landmark. The hotel was known for its Queen Anne style of architecture and intricate details. It rose in its appeal when owned by the O'Donnell sisters in the 1980s, and we've had lots of people approach us and tell us that they had some connection or another with these sisters. They were clearly had a big impact on the history of this building. They oversaw a major renovation and restored it to its former glory, creating a jewel of a hotel and another literary and cultural palace in the historic seaside town. They said, someone who came to the hotel said there used to be orange shag pile carpet over the tessellated tiles in that entry foyer. So I think what the O'Donnell sisters did was take it back into its majesty. According to sources, they had a bottomless well of generosity, quietly supporting, helping, advising, giving and encouraging many people, young and old, novices, students, and the experience with little regard for social stigma. So they sounded like they were lovely, lovely women. This is, you can see its history. It went through after the O'Donnells. The Schultz family owned it until 2015, where unfortunately he died, and the hotel was closed. And when it was sold to Tony and Patrina, while it was closed, they did an awful lot of work behind the scenes. He was apparently an expat living in Hong Kong, but grew up in Ocean Grove. And they engaged the architect, they engaged 30 different consultants and got all the planning approvals for the hotel through council and heritage ready for them to proceed with the renovation. But he chickened out at the last minute because he was living in Hong Kong and he saw it needed more hands-on. And that's when we came in and purchased.
Good morning, everyone. These are the lovely brochures of the hotel when we went to buy it. They weren't quite realistic. But the one thing about it is it's a truly beautiful hotel, and we are honoured to be part of its history. So our journey began in November 2022, and we went and saw the hotel and discussed it for a long time and got quite excited by it, a little bit daunted by it, and we went back and I think we bought it December and we settled at end of January 2023. Even between November 2022 and January 2023, the property had really deteriorated. And most of the deterioration you see is water damage. And most of it actually, unfortunately, was things like block gutters caused more problems than anything else. So when we got in, there were certain rooms that in fact, that top right-hand corner, you can see that there's a hole in the roof, which is actually in the beautiful old cornice work, and that rained right through to the second floor and actually blocked you from going into the bedroom. It was so bad. There's a piece of the replacement cornice work we had to get moulded, but it's an interesting hotel. The front rooms, as most of you would know, are very ornate, and all the rest of the rooms are very plain, which is the typical style of the Queen Anne style. You can see the great room there with the fire has burnt the mantelpiece and some of the wall. Bedroom on the left bottom side is actually the roof caving in, and the office has got the same problem. And then on the right bottom there you see that's a picture of Mietta's, and it had growth behind the render, and all the render is coming off the wall. And that wasn't there in November, but it was there in January, unfortunately. Couple more shots, just to show you how much fun this has been. Again, a lot of water damage, and we had some thoughts about the roof, and someone said, look, for $30,000 you could probably just patch that roof up, which wasn't quite the way it went. The bottom right's interesting. That's behind the paint. It's actually got a lot of growth. So it was organic growth growing behind all the paintwork, which meant that the render was wet, and there's a lot of repair that had to be done. So that's what we encountered when we first got there. So then what we did is up goes the scaffolding. So we're very pleased to say after 2 years, most of the scaffolding is down, which is great. We couldn't wait to get it down. But that's really where we started. And we really started with the roof, because we said, unless we do this, this place is going to fall apart. It really was quite close on some of the inner walls to being in some serious problem. So, roof, here we come. This is where you start to understand the relationship between Heritage Victoria, a company that's called RBA in our case, which is a heritage consultant that you have to employ, and people that have been involved in heritage know all this stuff. But you're not allowed to talk to Heritage Victoria. You talk to a consultant you employ, and they gave us a 90-page document to say these are the things you have to fix. On that 90-page document, they also cover paint colours, plants in the garden, any landscaping, the front fence. Anything on that property is controlled by Heritage Victoria and therefore comes through this company called RBA. So when we got into the roof, we said, okay, we have to replace the roof. They said, well, it has to be Welsh slate. Well, unfortunately, you can't buy Welsh slate anymore because all the quarries are closed. So we said, well, we can't do that. And we spent several months debating what slate you could use, and we actually convinced Heritage, I think in the end, that the tectonic plates between Wales and Canada were actually joined at one stage, and then as they moved apart, it's actually the same slate. So they agree with that, and we got to use Canadian slate. That was the first thing we had to get done, and our dear neighbours on the south side, thank you for your patience, and the north side, and the back. They've been very, very generous people, and I'm remiss not thanking them earlier, and some of them are here today. We thank you for your patience. On the south side of the building, it was actually slate, but it originally must have been a corrugated iron of some sort because there weren't enough rafters in the roof to hold the slate up. So it was actually falling apart. We've since put more rafters in and it's all done. I thank our neighbours for one reason. For 3 weeks we had a truck out the front of this building with a vacuum on it, sucking dust and dirt and slate, which actually deteriorates from the inside with humidity, sucking it out of the roof. And they had to listen to that thing for 3 weeks. I think we went to Queensland at the time. So I'm sorry. The other thing we've had done, as you notice in this picture, is all the chimneys have been restored. They were in bad shape. Bricks were replaced. All the bricks that were replaced in this building have actually come off-site somewhere else where we've been able to utilise some bricks that were pulled out or something and then reinserted into the building. So there's some new bricks in the building that were there we've taken out and replaced with 100-year-old, 140-year-old bricks. So it's all very original. So having the roof done, or almost done, someone came by the other day, Neil I think his name was, and he said, that ridge cap is a bit rusty up there. Are you going to do anything about that? And I said, yes, we are. We're just waiting for the supply. So the roof is nearly done. We just got some new ridge cap to replace. The turret, which we thought was in great shape, was not. Those posts on the side there's 10 of those in the building. They're hardwood posts, and 7 of the 10 had to be replaced. So the turret was very close to collapsing. We had to pull all the slate off, and we had to get all the lead work off. And someone, I think, Philip, you mentioned that you stayed in this room. Well, it's not a room anymore, so we've returned it to its former glory of being an open pavilion. So you could stay there, but it'd be rather cold. Okay, so that will be returned as it was, where it used to have a small platform, so the wealthy and famous could walk on the platform and promenade in front of everyone below them in the street. So anyhow, we're returning it back to its former glory. The big part and the big issue in this tower was all the lead work. So we had one guy who I don't know his real name, but I know him as Squizzy, and Quickie, and he did all our lead work and all our box guttering, which was in dire need of repair. He did most of the lead work in the turret to the satisfaction of Heritage Victoria until he got to the spire and the little piece at the bottom of the spire that did his head in. And after multiple attempts and ending up in hospital with back surgery, he gave up, and we ended up getting someone else to come and just finish it for him. But it's a beautiful job. I think everyone would see that we've now got a spire back, and it is really the centrepiece of the building, I think. So that's what it looks like now, all finished and resplendent, and hopefully the cockatoos won't eat the spire again like last time. So, the top of that spire, or the bottom of the spire, the top of the turret, was completely chewed away from the cockatoos. So I'm not sure how that spire fell down, but I suspect it was them. So the next thing we had to deal with was the veranda, and we thought the veranda was good.
Yeah, work on the veranda was multifaceted. When we first moved into the hotel, we had the opportunity to stay in it for about 6 months. We were living in one of the front bedrooms. It was for insurance purposes. It also gave us somewhere to sleep when we came down from Queensland and braved the elements. And the veranda, we'd have a coffee on it. We thought it was gorgeous. It looked pretty stable. And then we discovered when the builders started pulling it apart, it was far from stable. It was completely rotten. There was one corner, the left, if you're looking at the building, the far right-hand corner, it was sitting on a brick pier with a bit of wood between the brick pier and the base of that column. And when they pulled that out, it just shattered, it was that much was there, and it all just fell apart. It was unbelievable. That's holding up 2 stories. So we'd been happily sitting there having coffee, unaware of how dangerous it was. So we've had to take all the balustrade pieces off. They were all tagged and numbered, and then they've been scrubbed. They first of all tried to sandblast them, and that was too damaging. So then someone had to do it with a wire brush. We did a little bit, but then we gave that up. So that was all done. They've all been rust-proofed and repainted, ready to be put on. And in fact, you can see now the balustrade's been returned upstairs, although there's a few missing pieces that are getting made. And they should go on soon. And the same with we haven't put the balustrade downstairs yet, but it was bad. It was every joist, every board, every bit of support was rotten, and they had to rebuild the brick piers as well, just to stabilise it. So quite a lot of work went into the veranda. They were there for months. So that takes us to Mietta's, the restaurant. It was looking really worse for wear. The water just did so much damage on both sides. The south side, which is with all the windows, you can see we had to replace 3 of the windows, and all the beautiful architrave around the windows, that was all damaged and rotting. The corbels that you can see on the top right-hand side picture, they were all but 2 were rotten, and we've had to have a friend of ours is a really good antique restorer, and he's rebuilt all of those corbels. We had our own tree fungus. It was everywhere. It was awful. We discovered there was this old entry, so we've put a new glass window in that entry to open it all up because it had been boarded up. We're quite excited about that because that's going to be a wine cellar off the restaurant. So all of the lath plasters had to be replaced. The wood work around all the windows and the doors all's been replaced. And luckily the ceiling was intact. And the old lights, there was a beautiful brass chandelier. We've had that restored, and that's getting reinstated in Mietta's, along with 2 complementary lights that are being designed in Melbourne by a company called South Drawn. So that's pretty exciting, actually. And there were quite a few discussions about the floor. Our floor, wherever there had been water coming through the ceiling from the guttering and everything, where it had pooled, it had rotted the floorboards, and our builders were convinced that the flooring was Rimu, but we discovered it wasn't Rimu, it was Cowrie, and that was our friend who was an antique restorer. But then I was reading a book, that Queenscliff book, and in this book it says that the floorboards in the restaurant were in fact Cowrie. So that was the end of the argument. We had to source the Cowrie floorboards. They were super thick, And we found some in Oakley. There's a restoration guy that pulled them out of 2 old houses in Brighton. So now we have 170 lineal metres of new recycled floorboards reinstalled in Mietas on the floor. So thank goodness, because they are quite unique. The width of them, the thickness, it was hard to find.
Okay, here's the boat bar. The picture on the left is the boat bar floor, which is not in the best of shape. So the boat bar actually is one that we haven't done enormous. We've done a lot of planning, and we're actually just putting the ceiling in at the moment. We've restored the fireplaces. We've actually stripped back the timber panelling. It's a blackwood panelling, and the floors are, I think they're 48 millimetre Tassie oak. They're just magnificent thick floors. So we found some more Tassie oak where they've been damaged, mainly from the fireplaces, and we're rebuilding this as we speak at the moment. The one interesting thing for us, I think that most people, we know all people, some people know this, but underneath the bar was this old cellar in the bottom right hand corner, and they had built a cool room sometime in the 80s, I guess, in there, and so it wasn't open to the public. We're actually going to put a small spiral down into that and use that as part of the guest facility, so you can go down and have a drink in there, and we can actually show the old cellar, which is really pretty. So the old gentleman's smoking lounge, which is in the front of the building, which is where the glass is on the right left-hand side there. This we actually had a very preeminent restaurant entrepreneur come and see us at one stage and said, you know what you should do? You should put a coffee bar in there for guests to come and buy coffee, and then they can sit out the front. And we thought that was a great idea. Heritage has asked us to take the glass wall down because it wasn't part of the original building anyhow. So we've done that, and you can see down the bottom we've just started to do the work in that room. In fact, we're a little further on than that, but there was so much junk around that I couldn't get a photo that looked any good. But that will actually turn into a coffee bar, and the room in front will make into a coffee lounge, and then the whole front of the building will have tables and chairs. So we're hoping all you vibrant people at 6 o'clock in the morning want a coffee out at the opposite side of Princess Park, you can come and visit us and have a coffee there too. So we're in the process of doing that now.
So the hotel originally had 14 bedrooms, and they did have en suites, and they were perfectly nice. But our molecule architects had plans, and we had to follow the plans because that's what we inherited with the building. We had to follow everything that had been set up, and any deviations are quite expensive and quite a process. So we're happy to oblige. So now we're down to 12 bedrooms. They were comfortable, but now they're a bit more spacious, and we have reworked everything. We've reworked all the electricity, we've replumbed, we had to redo all the windows, the arcs, the sills were rotting, the plaster had to be repaired, and we had to follow all the processes that Heritage laid down about how to do all of that. We have old skirting. This is a piece of the original, so it's quite wide, a really wide board. We can't get this sort of wide board anymore, so they have to be creative and put together the pieces. In fact, upstairs, this is from downstairs, upstairs there's an extra piece, so they're even wider than this upstairs in the bedroom suites. But this is really the only ornamentation in each of the bedrooms, except for the 2 front principal rooms. We're pretty proud of what we're doing in the bedrooms. They look lovely. We're very excited. And we also had to pull up the floor in the hallway. Underneath that hall runner, there is so much pipe work. There's all the electricity, all the air conditioning ducts, so much is running under that floor, or the plumbing, it's a lot. And then we've restored the floor, replaced any rotten boards, and yeah, that's all good.
Yeah, the plumbing, electricity, we've had to rewire the whole building and replumb the whole building. It's had so many stages of rewiring and replumbing, and it was all the rewiring was actually done on the surfaces of the render. So there was a lot of pipe work and telephone lines and so forth. So we've got rid of all of that and put it back to new, because we really want to make sure this building doesn't burn down or has to have another major renovation for another 100 years. The conservatory and what we call the fern room. The bottom left is the fern room, and the top is the alcinite roof that was put in at some stage into the fern room. That's gone, that roof, and we're replacing with a glass roof in there, so it'll go back to being a fernery again. The back of the building we had to tear down because it was so rotten. It was built in the 80s, so it wasn't part of the original hotel. And it really was not in great shape. We had some friends now that were looking after the hotel and living in that back area. And they will tell you, Ronnie will particularly tell you stories of sitting there with a rubbish bin next to him on his lounge room with the rain pouring in there and another bucket over there. And they get up in the mornings and go to the fernery and get a pump out and pump the floors because they were full of water. In fact, the drains that were in the fernery, we discovered recently, didn't go anywhere. So they just went into the dirt, and that was a real mess. So that's all been torn down. Now the next photo, you people have snuck in the back of Hesse Street and had a look, who've seen this. But for those who haven't, that's the back now without the 80s extension on it. So we've had to pull all of it down, and then we repaired all the brickwork, again with the original bricks. We've had to re-pour the slab, replumb it, and then we're going to build another extension on the back again. So that's where we're at. That's a big job. We've poured the slab, and we're just waiting for one of the things with these buildings is a debate between heritage and modern building code. And one of the biggest issues in this one was fire. Now, it has lived for 140 years without a sprinkler in it, but now it needs a sprinkler in every drawer. So we've had a massive amount of work on the fire system, and we've just finally got that approved by Fire Victoria, 4 fire consultants, the architect, the surveyor, and 2 architects. So we are now at a stage where we think we can get to finishing off the back extension. So our partners, very quickly, because I do want to acknowledge some people. Molecule is a husband and wife architectural business that started this project in 2015. They had their one and only child was born when they started this project, who's now 10 years old. And they lost hope around 2021, I guess, and said this is never going to... And so they're still with us. They're great. RBA is our heritage consultants that we're asked to employ by Heritage Victoria, and one woman, Philippa Hall, has been fantastic. Green Design, we know nothing about designing an industrial kitchen, so we've brought this group in and have been fantastic helping us with that. Built by Wilson is a Geelong firm that is the principal builder. So Matt Wilson is our principal builder, and he subcontracts from there. InStyle Gardens has designed the gardens for this, which were approved by Heritage. And Ganji Electrics, smartest people I've ever met. They got in first and took all the real estate they could. So we've got distribution boards everywhere. Tammy's lost her linen cupboard, everything's gone. It's all got electrical distribution boards. Husser is all our carpenters come through them, and Geelong Tile and Bath. Walkers have done all the plastering. You guys probably know all these people. Dubsies do all our air conditioning. Dowling, Tom and Harry are our plumbers, who are incredible. And the other one I probably should... the roofing guys are there. Rickard is Byron, one of our lead carpenters, who's a really talented man, making sure that we do everything the right way. So really good people, and they've really looked after us well. So this is probably the bit you want to see. We make you sit through all of that just so you can get 2 photos, right? So what are we trying to do with it? We want to return it to what it was, which is a luxury boutique hotel. We think, and I'll say this about all the businesses in Queenscliff, everyone we've talked to all think the success of Queenscliff is all boats rise at the same time. So everyone's enthusiastic, the other restaurants, the other hotels, everyone that we get involved with said, look, this will be good for the town, and we think it'll be good for each other. So it's fantastic, really great support. The council's been outstanding. The planning people have been just unbelievable. One day I said to them, I wouldn't mind some bike racks out the front. And the next week he goes, I've got them, where do you want them? And I said, we're about 3 years away from needing them, but thank you. Right. So we're going to have a luxurious 12 suites. We're going to be able to have corporate weddings and private functions. The front grand room, what we're calling the boardroom, will actually be used for private dining or for small conferences, a dozen people. Then we have Mietta's restaurant, which we're going to reopen. The conservatory, which is the back bistro, Cafe 1888, which we've shown you, and the boat bar. And our plan long-term at the very back between us and Shelter Shed is to have a small bathhouse, which is available both public and to the hotel guests. Still working through if we can afford that and some permits, but that would be our intent, is to make sure that when people do come and stay, they can have a really nice experience, a relaxing experience. And remember, Queenscliff was the home of bathhouses in the past, so we think it's appropriate. We've got agreement with Heritage in principle. We just need to get the plans finished. Okay, sneak peek. These are actually photos inside the hotel. Boat bar. I told you I had no pictures of the boat bar. So these are the renderings, and you'll notice that it's very, very similar to what it used to be. It's not much different. We've changed it was very low above the bar and it was hard to look under, so we've just raised the ceiling a little bit there. And you see we've got the spiral going in for the cellar, so people can go down to the cellar. But on the whole, the boat bar is very similar to what it always was. The suites, these are actual photos of the suites now. The one on the left is the ensuite to the bridal room, or room 1. And we just put the bath up the other day. And the other one is the wardrobes we've had made and the beds. The lights are from that company Tammy mentioned, South Drawn. Great people that have done them specifically for us. Mietta's is getting there. The centre is the artist rendition, and the two side ones are where it's at as of yesterday, I think, or the day before. Again, the ceiling's all done, the floors are all fixed, plaster's all done, the architraves and window surrounds are finished. So it's got some wallpaper, some flooring to do, and we've got to kick all the trade people out of there. So and that's the hardest bit. Once you get a room finished, they go great, and they put all their junk in there because we're running out of room. This is the back. So the back of the building, we're reinstating the conservatory in the back, and that's 3 metre, I think 3.2 metre glass doors on the back, and that'll be the addition onto the old building with a back bar and bistro. And then outside there's seating for about 60-something people in the outside garden, which we've designed to be sort of in 4 rooms so that it's not just one big space, that you can have a bit of intimacy and privacy in there as well. So that's where we're at. If you look out the back, you won't see that yet. But the doors are built, and we're just waiting on the building surveyor to give us some approvals for the next stage. But we're nearly there. Our plan is to try and open before the end of the year. That may be a hollow promise. As you all know, Queenscliff gets busy over Christmas, and then it's pretty quiet. So we would like to try and take advantage of that. We're not sure we'll make it, but we plan to. The bathhouse won't be built, but the rest hopefully will be. And if you ever want to follow us, you can follow us with the QR code or on Instagram or on their website. The website obviously will open up to a full booking website for the restaurants and accommodation and everything. At the moment, it's just a series of photos with a bit of follow us. I know a lot of you are on it. And that's it. So with that, we'd like to open up for questions. If you've got a question, sing out.
You didn't mention anything about those beautiful Headlight windows that feature in the hotel.
Yep, absolutely. You want me to?
We did have it in our presentation. We had to bring it down. Yes, we've had those restored. In fact, some of the glass, the colour was very unique, and the glazier spent a lot of time researching, and he found and reinstated all our lovely lead light glass windows. They're definitely a feature, and it was a requirement that we fix them.
Yeah, so the ones I think you're probably referring to are the ones into the fernery, the painted doors and all that. They're probably the more eloquent ones. My understanding of the story was when the O'Donnell sisters came back in, they found them. They were taken out during its history and went to Melbourne. They went and found them in Melbourne, brought them back. And if you look at the painted glass, it's painted scenes of Sorrento, Portsea, the heads and all the rest of it. So they're really important. We've been petrified through this process that a tradie will put a piece of wood through one or something. We've survived with only one tiny little bit of blue stained glass that's got a crack, and so which is fine to replace. So we're in great shape, and they're there today. They're there, ready to go. Yeah. So thank you for the question. Yes.
Can I ask you why you had the big sale when you went in with all the...
Oh, yes. Now, the question was, why did we have that big sale when we went in there? We didn't. And that was the previous owner, and we were astounded by the money he made out of it. So a lot of the stuff was not original. I mean, it was being used in the hotel, but it wasn't old. So the only things we managed to buy was the dining table, a dining table which we've had restored in the front boardroom, and it had a beautiful side table which was there to carry the leaves, which we'd never seen before, so we got that as well. And then we got some of the old dining chairs which we've repaired as well. But apart from that, and some mirrors. But everything else was sold before we owned it.
The dining table was from 1867 in Edinburgh. We found the maker's mark, so it's really exquisite.
Yeah.
I notice you still refer to it as Mietta's.
Yes.
Are you allowed to?
Yes.
It will stay as...
Well, there's a long story to this. So I did buy the trademark, and I haven't met her, but there's a niece of the O'Donnell sisters I have to meet, and I've tried once before, and we just haven't got together yet. So we're actually going to honour the O'Donnell sisters with a plaque name for the restaurant. We think Mietta's or Mietta's, I'm not sure, maybe I'm saying it wrong. I think it's really important, and every time we talk about the hotel, they go, oh, is that the Royal? Is it the Grandview? You go, Mietta's. Oh, yeah, I know that one. So we think from a, not just the marketing, but in honour of the O'Donnells, we think we should call it that. So we're going to call and we've got the trademark for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
But having said that, I really do want to meet the niece, because I think out of respect we should ask and talk to her before we do that. Yes?
Can I ask you, are you planning to open Mietta's and say the cafe earlier than when you're ready for the whole opening?
I don't think it's possible. The kitchen is the thing that's slowing us down. We've got this special roof structure for inside the kitchen that's being assembled in Germany, and it's like how long is it? 3-month lag before.
Yeah, 12 weeks.
Yeah, before it even comes out, and you can't do much without the roof.
So we won't have a kitchen until that. The kitchen's probably the biggest thing, and that as soon as what we're trying to do with the build at the moment is finish the old bit, and we're nearly done with that, and that's probably the biggest unknown and the most expensive part, because everything you touch, you just, oh my goodness. And but we're pretty well through most of that now, and then the new build's actually really quick. It's really easy. So if we can get done before Christmas, we'll be thrilled. I don't think we can open them until the kitchen's done, which is probably the determining factor. Yeah. Yes?
Are you anticipating having a grand opening? Because we'll all come.
Yeah, I know. We all want to. Yeah, I know. I don't know. We've had lots of debates about how to do it. Do we do a soft opening, a grand opening? Do we do a couple? We'll probably do a celebration for all the people that have worked on it, and we think that'd be a nice, maybe a cold start, and we owe them so much, so we'll probably do that. then we have to work it out. But we'd like to do something with the space because, you know, this is Queenscliff. We want to wake everyone up and say, hey, look what we got. Yeah, exactly. We're back. Yes. Sorry, there's someone behind. Yes, sir.
Does it have a lift?
Yes. And it's a great question. So the previous owners spent a year in court debating with Heritage about putting a lift in. And, excuse me, and so they designed up the lift, and it's actually near the back stairs, if everyone knows the hotel. So it is there. It's getting installed right now as we speak. We had some suggestions that that's in the wrong spot, move, and we said there is no way that lift. As soon as we decided we wanted to move it, it would be gone. So we've got a lift in it for everyone. Yeah. Yes.
Anthony Burke does Restoration Australia, which would be great publicity.
No.
You brought him on board.
We're relatively shy people. I know we don't sound it, but we are. And we went, oh, that's just another thing that'd be. It's been a journey without it. And in fairness, we just want to restore the hotel and then present it to the community. So last one or two, and then we're done. I think we're over time. Yes, sorry.
Heritage Victoria has obviously given you plenty of headaches and advice. Have they been able to financially support you as well?
Yeah, no, it's a really interesting question. Actually, our consultants, RBA, and because most of them are English, so they've been grown up in the heritage education of the UK. In fact, and a lot of the artisans, the roofer and all these people are from the UK as well. In one of my rants one day when they were telling me we had to do something, and I'm going, that's impossible, you have to do it, you know, the door was not right or the tile was not quite right. We said, you know, this is fine, but you guys make us pay you to tell us to spend more money, and there's no help. We haven't been able to get any financial assistance on the build at all, and it's one of the problems. It's one of the problems and one of the reasons. I'm not having a go because Heritage have been helpful as well, but it's one of the reasons our buildings are falling down, because it is a hardship to take an old building on, and we love them, but it's millions of dollars just because it's an old building, and I worry about that. This building, I think, was maybe a year away from being in real trouble. So, which is surprising because it looked good from the outside. Looked good when we bought it. But yeah, no, it is one of the issues. I know there are grants, but when we asked, they said there's no grants for the next 3 years, they're all gone. And honestly, things like the Victoria, what's the big one in Exhibition Building, they haven't even got the money to do that. And so this little hotel in Queenscliffe's got no hope. Yeah, that's it. I think we're out of time. Thank you for your attention. We really appreciate it.